Have you ever heard of a city whose walls came tumbling down from just a shout and the blast of trumpets? For centuries, the story of Jericho has captivated millions, a tale of faith, conquest, and divine power from the pages of the Bible. But what if I told you that modern science has stepped in, digging through layers of dust and time to uncover the truth buried beneath the ancient city? What did archaeologists actually find at the site of Jericho? Is there any evidence to support this incredible story? Today, we're journeying back thousands of years to the sun-scorched plains of the Jordan Valley. We're peeling back the layers of history, myth, and science to explore one of archaeology's most fascinating and controversial sites. Get ready, because what scientists discovered at the walls of Jericho might just surprise you. Before we dig into the science, let's set the scene. Jericho is often called the oldest city in the world. We're talking about a settlement that dates back over 10,000 years. It's a place that has been built, destroyed, and rebuilt time and time again. This makes it an archaeologist's dream, but also a nightmare. Imagine a giant layer cake of history, where each layer represents a different civilization, a different era, a different story. The challenge for archaeologists is to carefully slice through this cake without mixing everything up, to understand what happened and when. The biblical account, found in the book of Joshua, is dramatic. It describes the Israelites, led by Joshua, marching around the fortified city of Jericho once a day for 6 days. On the seventh day, they marched around it 7 times. Then, the priests blew their trumpets, the people shouted, and the massive walls of Jericho collapsed, allowing the Israelites to conquer the city. For a long time, this was the only story we had. But in the 20th century, archaeologists arrived with their trowels and brushes, ready to see if the ground held any secrets. The first major excavations were led by a British archaeologist named John Garstang in the 1930s. As he dug down, he was thrilled to discover a collapsed city wall. He found mud bricks that had tumbled down, forming a ramp against the base of the city's retaining wall. For Garstang, this was the smoking gun. He saw evidence of a massive fire that had torched the city, and he dated this destruction to around 1400 BC, which lined up perfectly with the biblical timeline for Joshua's conquest. The news flashed around the world. The Bible story was confirmed. It seemed like a closed case. But in the world of science, things are rarely that simple. A couple of decades later, in the 1950s, another renowned British archaeologist, Kathleen Kenyon, decided to take a second look. Kenyon was known for her meticulous, modern techniques. She dug her own trenches and carefully analyzed the pottery she found in the destruction layer. Pottery is like a time capsule for archaeologists. Its style and form can tell you with remarkable accuracy when a layer of earth was deposited. And what Kenyon's pottery analysis revealed sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. She concluded that Garstang had gotten the date wrong. The city wall he found, the one that had so dramatically collapsed, was actually destroyed around 1550 BC, a full 150 years before the Israelites were thought to have arrived. According to Kenyon, this destruction was most likely caused by an Egyptian campaign, not the Israelites. Furthermore, she found that by the time Joshua and his army would have arrived around 1400 BC, there wasn't much of a city left to conquer. Jericho, in her view, was a small, sparsely populated settlement, possibly without any walls at all. It was a devastating blow to the idea that archaeology had proven the biblical narrative. For many, the case was closed again, but this time in the opposite direction. The story of Jericho's walls was declared a myth. So, who was right? Garstang or Kenyon? For decades, Kenyon's conclusions were the accepted view. But science never stops questioning. In the 1990s, another archaeologist named Brian Wood decided to re-examine all the evidence, including Kenyon's own notes and pottery drawings, which had since been fully published. Wood argued that Kenyon had overlooked key pieces of evidence. He pointed to specific types of imported pottery from Cyprus that Kenyon herself had found in the destruction layer. Wood argued that this pottery was characteristic of the period ending around 1400 BC, not 1550 BC. Suddenly, The timeline snapped back into place, aligning once again with the biblical account. Wood went further. He re-examined the collapsed walls and argued that the evidence pointed to something very specific, an earthquake. He noted that the mud brick wall on top of the stone retaining wall had fallen outwards, down the slope, creating a convenient ramp for any attackers to climb up into the city. This detail remarkably mirrors the biblical description of the Israelites going up into the city. And what about the fire? Kenyon had noted the intense fire that destroyed the city, but Wood pointed out another fascinating detail from the excavation reports. Large jars full of grain were found in the ruins of the houses. This is a very unusual discovery for a conquered city. Normally, an invading army would plunder everything of value, especially food. The fact that so much grain was left behind suggests two things. First, the city was conquered quickly, after only a short siege, just 7 days, as the Bible describes. Second, the conquerors didn't take the spoils, which again matches the biblical command for the Israelites to consecrate the city as treasures to God and not take them for themselves. So now we have a collapsed wall, a massive fire, a conquest that happened right after the spring harvest when grain stores would be full, and a city that wasn't plundered. And the timeline, according to Wood, lines up. It's a compelling case, but it's important to say that it's not universally accepted. The debate between archaeologists is fierce. Many still hold to Kenyon's timeline, arguing that Wood's reinterpretation of the pottery is incorrect. The dating of ancient pottery is a complex science, and experts can look at the same piece and draw different conclusions. So, what can we say for sure? We know for certain that a mighty, fortified city existed at Jericho. We know its walls were destroyed and the city was burned. We know this happened in the late Bronze Age, the general time frame of the biblical conquest. The core of the debate boils down to 150 years. Was it 1550 BC or 1400 BC? It's a puzzle with pieces that don't all fit perfectly. Could the collapsed walls be evidence of the story of Joshua? It's certainly plausible. The details uncovered by archaeology, the fallen walls forming a ramp, then plundered grain, the sudden destruction, paint a picture that is strikingly similar to the one in the book of Joshua. For people of faith, this is powerful corroborating evidence. It suggests the biblical account is rooted in a real historical event, a memory of a dramatic conquest passed down through generations. However, from a purely scientific standpoint, we can't say it's definitive proof. Archaeology can tell us what happened, but it can't always tell us why or who was responsible. It can show us a collapsed wall, but it can't prove it was brought down by a trumpet blast. An earthquake is a more likely scientific explanation, but even then, the timing of that earthquake in relation to an Israelite attack would be, for believers, a miracle in itself. In the end, the story of Jericho's walls sits at the fascinating intersection of science and faith. Archaeology doesn't prove the Bible in the way a math equation is proven. Instead, it provides a physical context. It shows us that the world described in these ancient texts was a real place, with real cities, real walls, and real people. The debate over Jericho will likely continue for years to come, as new techniques and new discoveries come to light. But what we've found so far is incredible, the silent stones of an ancient city, speaking to us across millennia, telling a story of destruction and conquest that continues to challenge and inspire us today. What do you think? Do the archaeological findings support the biblical story, or is it all just a coincidence? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's greatest mysteries. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the past.